The tension in the air is unbearable. The officers shift uncomfortably, glancing at each other, unsure of how to proceed. Their earlier confidence has completely evaporated. The mayor stands silently, his gaze steady, his expression unreadable. The bystanders hold their breath, many of them still recording, knowing this moment could change everything. One officer, younger and visibly shaken, tries to regain control of the situation. He mutters something about miscommunication and needing to handle things properly, but his voice cracks under the pressure. The mayor doesn't react. He just stands there, waiting. It's as though he's daring them to make the next move. The crowd's energy shifts from shock to anticipation. Some whisper about how the mayor's decision here could impact the entire city. Would he play the hero and bring justice? Or would he simply walk away, letting this moment slip by unnoticed? In the distance, sirens can be heard approaching, adding another layer of unease to the already volatile situation. The officers exchange nervous glances, realizing that more backup could escalate things even further. The young officer, desperate to salvage the situation, steps forward, his hand hovering near his radio. He's on edge, trying to think of something, anything, to diffuse the tension before the cameras capture something they'll all regret. But the mayor beats him to it. He speaks for the first time, his voice low but sharp, cutting through the chaos. "You think you can treat people like this? Because of what I look like? Because of my age?" he asks, his words hanging heavy in the air. The officers shift uncomfortably, the weight of his words sinking in. One officer begins to speak up, but the mayor cuts him off. "I'm your boss now, and if you don't respect me, you're not just disrespecting me, you're disrespecting every citizen in this city." A hushed silence falls over the crowd, the power of his statement settling like a heavy fog. The younger officer's face flushes with embarrassment, but he doesn't back down. His jaw tightens, and for a moment, it seems like he's about to argue. But then the sirens grow louder, cutting off his chance to speak. More patrol cars pull up, their lights flashing, and suddenly the situation feels like it could explode at any moment. The officers glance nervously at the new arrivals. A few look to the mayor, waiting to see what he will do next. But he stays calm, unmoved, as if he's already anticipated this moment. He knows this confrontation could have far-reaching consequences for the officers involved, and for the city. His mind races with the decisions ahead. What will he do? Will he demand accountability right here, right now, in front of the crowd? Or will he take a different path, one that could set a new precedent for how the city deals with its police force? As the new patrol officers step out of their cars, the camera's lens zooms in on the mayor's face, no longer just the ordinary man they thought he was, but the leader of the city. The air crackles with uncertainty, and for the first time, the tension feels like it could snap at any moment. What happens next will determine not just the mayor's future, but the relationship between the city's law enforcement and its people. The choice he makes could either calm the storm or ignite a fire that will burn for years. The final confrontation is coming, and it's anyone's guess how it will unfold. Just as the new patrol cars pull up and the tension reaches its peak, the crowd begins to murmur again. A figure steps out of one of the vehicles, a familiar face that none of the officers or bystanders expected. It's the police chief, a towering figure in the department, known for his firm stance and unwavering control. The officers exchange uneasy glances, realizing the gravity of the situation has just escalated in ways they hadn't anticipated. The chief's presence is enough to send a ripple of fear through the crowd and the officers alike. As he strides toward the group, his eyes lock on the mayor. For a split second, it seems like the chief might step in to diffuse the situation, maybe even offer an apology on behalf of his officers. But instead, his gaze sharpens. He's not looking at the mayor with respect. He's looking at him with suspicion. Is there a problem here? The chief's voice is cold, dismissive. The officers, already in a fragile state, fall silent, unsure of what to say. The younger officer, the one who had tried to backpedal earlier, opens his mouth but hesitates. The chief raises a hand, silencing him, and then turns his attention back to the mayor. His eyes narrow, and his tone grows more accusatory. What would happen if the man you just insulted turned out to be the person who holds the power to change your city? In today's video, we're diving into a shocking moment where a group of police officers confront an older black man on the street, only to belittle him, not knowing he's the newly elected mayor of their city. It's a tense encounter filled with arrogance, misjudgment, and the stark reality of power dynamics. As the situation unfolds, the officer's ignorance about the man's identity becomes painfully clear. But just when things seem to spiral out of control, a twist leaves everyone stunned. How will this play out? Stay tuned to see how this confrontation turns into a turning point for the city and for the officers themselves. You won't believe what happens next. This introduction is compelling and flows well, establishing the key plot points while leaving room for intrigue. The tone is engaging, and it does a great job of setting up suspense without giving too much away. The build-up around the man's identity and the twist keeps the audience hooked, making them want to watch the rest of the video. Is there anything you'd like to adjust, or would you like me to help with the rest of the script? As the officers continue to berate the older man, their voices grow louder, and the insults more personal. They're quick to assume he's just another homeless man, a target for their frustrations after a long shift. The man stands quietly, his face unreadable, but his posture calm. The officer's taunts become more pointed, mocking his age, his appearance, his presumed status in life. But there's something about him that feels different. He doesn't back down, doesn't flinch. The tension in the air thickens as a few bystanders start recording, unsure whether to intervene or just watch. The crowd's whispers only add fuel to the fire, with some people urging the officers to stop while others remain silent, caught between fear and disbelief. In the middle of it all, the man's silence speaks louder than anything else. Then one officer, perhaps feeling emboldened by the growing audience, asks the man for identification. The older man reaches into his pocket, slowly pulling out a worn wallet. As he opens it, the officer's laughter dies down. His ID is unmistakable, mayor of city name. The officers pause. There's a collective, stunned silence. For a brief moment, no one knows what to say. One officer, clearly flustered, tries to backpedal, mumbling something about a misunderstanding, but the damage is done. The rest of the group stands frozen, unsure whether to apologize or double down. The situation has gone from embarrassing to potentially catastrophic. Meanwhile, the crowd of onlookers starts murmuring louder, sensing that something bigger is unfolding before their eyes. From the officer's perspective, this is a nightmare. They've just humiliated the city's most powerful figure, someone who could now directly affect their careers, their future, and even the policies they enforce. And for the mayor, it's more than just an insult. It's a stark reminder of how some in power view people like him. It's a bitter taste of how easily respect can be denied to someone based solely on age and appearance. The mayor doesn't react immediately. Instead, he watches them squirm, the weight of his newfound role pressing on him. He's not just any citizen. He's now their boss. He wonders how many others, like him, had been dismissed, disrespected, or ignored by these same officers over the years. He thinks about the systemic issues that might have led to this moment: police brutality, racial profiling, the divide between law enforcement, and the communities they serve. But before he can speak, an officer begins to speak out of turn, challenging the man's authority, accusing him of trying to play some kind of political game. The mayor's face hardens, but he remains calm. He knows how to handle difficult situations. After all, this is just the beginning of his term. He has the power now, and it's clear that this moment could set the tone for how his leadership is perceived, not only by the public, but also by those meant to serve under him. As the exchange continues, the crowd's attention shifts to what will happen next. Will the mayor make an example of these officers, or will he try to salvage the situation with diplomacy? The tension is palpable, and the stakes are high, not just for the officers who may face consequences, but for the mayor, who is now forced to navigate a delicate balance between power and reconciliation. The question lingers in the air. What happens when those who are supposed to protect you are the ones who need to be held accountable? I don't know what kind of game you think you're playing, but this doesn't look good. We don't need a politician coming down here trying to make a spectacle out of a routine stop. You may be the mayor now, but you still don't outrank me when it comes to what happens on my streets. The crowd gasps. The officers visibly stiffen, knowing that the chief is essentially challenging the mayor's authority right in front of everyone. But the real shock comes next. As the chief stands there, arms crossed, his eyes flicker to the younger officer, the one who had been harassing the mayor. In a move no one saw coming, the chief pulls him aside with a curt nod. "Step away from the mayor," he orders, his voice low and menacing. "You're a liability now. I told you to stay in line, but this is beyond your pay grade." The officer looks like he's been struck by lightning. He stammers, confused and humiliated. The crowd watches, some recording, some too stunned to move. The chief's words hang in the air, thick with meaning. It's not just a reprimand. It's a public shaming. And worse, it's a subtle message to the other officers. If you mess up, you're on your own. The young officer steps back, his face flushed with embarrassment, but the damage is done. The shift in power is palpable. For the mayor, it's clear the chief doesn't just see him as the new leader of the city. He sees him as an obstacle. The power struggle that's brewing isn't just between the mayor and the officers anymore. It's between the mayor and the entire police department. The stakes have risen higher than ever. The atmosphere crackles with a new, even more dangerous energy. The crowd, sensing something deeper is at play, begins to murmur again. The mayor has just witnessed the chief's cold dismissal of his authority, and in that moment, he realizes this won't be a simple fix. The chief's move has shifted the entire narrative. What had been a confrontation between officers and an elder man is now a full-blown battle for control over the city. The mayor's resolve hardens. He now knows this will be his greatest test yet. The mayor's eyes lock with the chief's, and for a moment, time seems to freeze. The chief's smug confidence clashes with the mayor's calm determination. Neither of them says a word, but the message is clear. This battle is far from over. The sirens continue to wail in the distance, but they seem almost irrelevant now. The true conflict is no longer about the officers or the mayor. It's about power, respect, and the future of the city. And it's only getting started. The tension reaches its boiling point as the chief's challenge hangs in the air. For a long moment, no one speaks. The officers stand rigid, unsure whether to back their chief or the newly elected mayor. The crowd waits, holding its breath. The mayor's eyes remain locked on the chief, and it's clear that something is about to shift, something that will decide the fate of this confrontation and set the tone for the mayor's leadership moving forward. Finally, the mayor speaks, his voice steady and filled with authority. "You think you can control this city with intimidation, by undermining the very people you're meant to protect." His words hit hard, and the crowd murmurs in agreement. The time for that is over. The chief's face tightens, his hands clenching into fists. The young officer, still lingering in the background, shits uneasily. The mayor steps forward, moving closer to the chief, forcing him to look him in the eye. "You've been playing the game for too long," the mayor continues, his tone cold. "But the rules have changed. Now I'm the one in charge. And if you can't respect that, you can step down." The crowd's reaction is immediate. Some cheer, some gasp, and others pull out their phones to record, sensing that this moment is historic. The chief's face flushes with rage, but before he can retort, something unexpected happens. A voice calls out from the back of the crowd, cutting through the rising tension like a knife. It's a reporter, someone who's been covering local politics for years. "You're wrong, Mayor. You don't know the whole story." Everyone turns toward the voice. The reporter pushes her way through the crowd, her camera crew in tow. She looks directly at the mayor, then at the chief. This man, she gestures to the chief, isn't just some stubborn figurehead. He's been working behind the scenes with a powerful faction of the city council to undermine your entire campaign. The harassment today, it wasn't random, it was orchestrated.